Hello and welcome to,
Hey, we like your pod.
and we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined, as always, well, as long as we're on
Yeah.
live, when we're here, by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. How you doing, Matt? How was your vacation?
Don, I'm so happy to see you. We keep doing this like every 3 weeks thing just because of like summer and whatever else happening. So like I've just been looking forward to this all week to have a chance to talk to you. And I'm doing great. Vacation was amazing. It was basically wake up, look out the window at the beach. Like literally it was right there. Walk down
Yay.
to the beach, spend some time in the pool, then kind of like, chill out for a bit and then go into Savannah to explore a little bit. Like it was amazing. That's all I really want from a vacation, just a chill time at the beach. It was great. It was great. And the new job I have, that I've talked about a couple times now is going really well, really exciting
Great.
stuff. And so, yeah, I couldn't complain about a thing except for the fact that here in the upstairs of this very old house that I live in, it is sweltering right now. It is very bad ventilation. Years ago, we should have had like the everything insulated up here because we could have gotten in to do that. And at this point, we're actually looking at maybe moving soon anyhow. So kind of a moot point now, but it's just like, man, it's hot up here. But that's not a complaint. Otherwise, life is good. How about you, Don? How you been?
I've been good. I've been really good, enjoying summer, which is like the same as, it's like 5 degrees or 6 degrees warmer. So it feels warmer. We don't have super hot weather. Are you having like a heat wave or something
Yes.
there? Or
Yeah, we came back to Cincinnati like to the beginning of a really nasty heat wave. And today, actually, I think the high was only 95 today. So, it's getting better.
Wow. Yeah.
Can you imagine 95 in San Diego, right?
Never.
No.
I mean, inland, sure, but like
Sure.
in the desert,
Yeah.
but not where I live. I would die. I wouldn't even go out. Like I barely go out if it's 80. Like, and it's rarely 80. So so funny. I
Right.
if I'm in the evening sometimes popping onto YouTube for anything, I subscribe to this channel. It's like one of my latest. It's called Ryan Hall, y'all. Are you
Okay.
familiar with Ryan Hall?
No,
He's the
not.
weather guy. Oh, he's so fun, and he has his own app, and he's super knowledgeable, and he has other specially like weather specialists on and storm take, and so if he's live, that'll be usually one of the first things I see because he has millions of followers. That's why I think, I don't know, a while back I asked you, did you have a tornado? Because I happened to see it on Ryan Hall. Y'all, it was like heading towards Cincinnati. Like, I was like, why do I care? Because we don't have weather here. Right? That's why it's just interesting.
So it's the same.
And then I look at, what's going on and, where my family is and that kind of thing, wherever they are around the country. So, yeah, I think Wisconsin, it was as is typical. My sister was like, oh, it's too cool to put the flowers out. She has them like waiting in her hydroponic system inside and in Wisconsin. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I put them out. And then a week later, it's like, oh, it's a heat wave. So it really swings. Does it swing like that where you are in Cincinnati? Is it like cool and then hot?
Not that dramatically, but it definitely does. I mean, we had a really cool, I think it was most of May was like unreasonably below temperatures, and it's really hot now. So I guess, to a degree, I suppose. I kind of imagine it's a bit more of a swing in Wisconsin, but I can be wrong about that. So
yeah, seems like it. So hello to True North Packers fan. Nice to see you. Help, I think my cat is trying to kill me. No, she's not trying to kill me.
Not in today's episode.
Not today, anyway. She's being leash trained now, and she doesn't like the harness. I don't know if you've ever had a cat or seen videos of cat when you put a harness on them and they just flop over, like they're just like dead. Yeah, off. If they're not used to a harness and like trained from kitten on, it's pretty funny. And so if I need to do something with her that she doesn't want done, like her manicure or medicine or something like that. I pop the harness on her and she's just like a dead cat, and it's
Wow.
great. So, but now I got her a little cute little collar. It's pink, light pink, like a baby pink with rhinestones and a little bell. And it has her little Apple tracker on in case she runs away. And I've been getting her because she expressed curiosity about going out in the like common area of where I live. And she's a cat. So it's like if a bird like she could go running. And so that's why I have
Yep.
But now that she's used to the collar, she's not flopping. At first, she was kind of like, but she's not like flopping, playing dead like with the harness. But so now she's used to the collar, and she sits as I put it on, and as I take it off, she's not like biting me.
Okay.
And now we're working on the leash part of it.
I have a neighbor who walk around with their cat on a leash. It looks so strange to me always, but just absolutely. Well, the first time I saw it, I thought it was the strangest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Iowa Joe. Yes, she has a leash. No, she's not going to strangle me.
She's going to strangle you with the leash, dog. That's how it's going to go down. She's coming after you with the leash.
Oh, God. Okay. Hi, Joey.
Look at that. Joey. Hey, man.
So what is that picture of Matt and Jordan? Yeah, it's a no, it's not a shower curtain. It's a banner. Cool. It's like vinyl banner. It looks a little shiny because of the way the light is. I don't normally have it there, but yeah.
Looks a little shiny because you just took a shower and it's a shower curtain. That's why.
And then I have another photo over there, but no, it's like a vinyl banner, like you see at a trade show or something like that. Yeah.
And I have the same picture up in my office because you sent it to me, of course, and it's a place of pride right there in my office.
That's right. Yes, you got it up. Good. Yeah, I love that. I love that photo. Okay, so good to see you all, and I'm glad you like the pink collar, True North. It's very cute. I have taken some pictures of her with it, but I don't have any on her Instagram yet. So hopefully you're all following her on Instagram. So Maddie, our episode today is called It's Getting Hot. And it's not just the weather we were talking about, but it's getting closer. Okay, so I'm excited because I wrote it down. Let me look at it. 4 weeks till training camp starts.
There it is. Yep.
5 weeks till family night. 6 weeks till preseason game number 1. 6 weeks.
Ooh,
and 10 weeks till football. 10 weeks. Yes.
That's good to hear it that way, because it's like,
right.
We're in the deadest of dead zones for football content right now. God bless all the people who are still doing podcasts every day, every week, regularly. Like our friend Iowa Joe, for example, doing great work in the off season, doing silly, unrelated podcasts. I'm loving it. Good Star Wars one I heard, this most recent one. But anyhow, the people making content now, bless them, because there's just so little to talk about. I mean, it's like, we'll need to spend 2 weeks talking about Jair isn't with the Packers anymore. Like, I don't like it's good. We got 1 day is fine. 1 day is fine.
Right.
So, what was I saying, Don? Oh yeah, it's putting it like that. How close we actually are getting? How close we're getting to anything? It's like, okay, it's just really around the corner. I mean, it's almost July, and July is almost August, right? So there you go. Right. That's how it works. So.
And then August is almost Christmas. It's like
and Christmas is almost,
and then we're like, it's so sad. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I did listen to Jair's dad's interview, which was pretty nice. Yeah, it was pretty nice. That's the only thing I listened to a few little things about it, but not overdid it. But yeah, I liked hearing. He was very respectful, but basically, there were just no guarantees money in there, and which is kind of a segue to one of my superlatives for tonight. But but I think it's because of his injuries. They just had a hard time, and they did. And he did say, though, if the Packers would have offered what the Ravens offered, Jair would have preferred that, and he would have stayed with the Packers. He wanted to stay. I'm going to miss him. I really like him.
I know. Like, as far as how good the team is with or without him, it's hard to really say because he's been injured so much.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just thinking back to some of the great moments, like when he interrupted the TV anchor who thought he was a fan, was like, "The pack is back, baby," huh? Like stuff like that. I'll miss that.
I
Definitely.
know, love him, and I didn't know much about his dad, but I really liked his dad in that interview too. It was nice to get to know him a little bit. So, because we've known some of the family members of some of the players over the years.
Some better than others.
Some that we would prefer not to.
Some dads, what?
Some dads. So, Maddie, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I kind of got to, during this off season, I'm kind of turned on to ESPN Milwaukee because they do their broadcasts on YouTube live as well as wherever else they're broadcasting, and probably their channel. Kyle, Brust, and Nortman, and it's produced by our friend Alex Strofe.
Oh, Alex.
Remember when he got that job? I was like, oh yeah, I remember when he got that job. But I'm kind of into it. I've seen a couple of interviews, seen and listened to a couple of interviews that I really enjoyed with them. Have you ever partaken of Kyle, Brust, and Nortman? Okay.
No, this is actually news to me.
Okay, yeah, they're pretty cool. They've done some great interviews, and they're just fun. Like the fun. Kyle proposed to his longtime girlfriend last weekend, and it was just so cute. He was talking about how he started crying, and it was just. And then the guys are all razzing him, and yeah, it's a really fun show. And I know they've been there, but I don't remember them being there like this. So it must be a little bit of a newer format. Could be wrong. Yeah, and their show is pretty much long form. So if you go to the ESPN website, you can get little clips too. They'll talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's been kind of my first superlative kind of go-to. There've been a couple episodes that I really enjoyed, and I thought I wrote them down, but I didn't. So you can just figure it out for yourself. What about you? What's your first superlative? Oh,
yeah. I was to say, we're rusty, obviously, because
it's time for this week's superlatives.
Sorry,
Dawn. One of these weeks, Dawn. That's not gonna make me laugh like an idiot. One of these weeks, but this is not that week. Yeah, I love that so much. So, my first superlative.
I love that I forget.
Well, that's why you're like starting to talk about the show, and I was like, oh, Dawn's doing a superlative.
I did.
We didn't have the transition graphic.
What happened?
Okay, anyhow.
All right. Now that it's time for this superlative.
Yeah, now it's time for the superlatives. I have 3 as usual. My first one for this week is Best Rapport. This is a group I have shouted out in the past for the exact same thing. So you could call it a rerun, you could call it an encore performance, whatever. I'm so tickled every time, because it doesn't happen every week, but every time that Andy Herman, Perry Goldstein, and Grant, Wisco Grant, what's his last name? Bills. Whenever they do a show together, because I don't even know it's every other week at this point. It's kind of sporadic, it feels like, but they're so good. They're so funny together. And I think part of it is, obviously, apart from the chemistry, which is excellent, is that, I listen to like a lot of Andy Herman because, both, because he does like one every day, right?
Everything. Yes.
And usually they're amazing. I mean, so like I listen to almost all those episodes. So that's Andy by himself. He's great. But then Andy bouncing off people, and being a little sillier than he is, like with Justice, for example, which he has, weekly with Justice on like Tuesdays or whatever it is. He gets a bit sillier, a little looser with Perry and Grant, and it's just so much fun to listen to. So the one they did this week, I think, was the Fact or Fiction that he set up with them, and just really fun. And I honestly, this is the thing I talked about with the Marvelous Monday crew, with Dan and Monty and Camille, how they did a couple of really fun things leading up to the draft, where it was like almost like game shows. So it was more interactive to listen to. So like, because Andy would say, here's a statement, fact or fiction. And I'm like, fact, because like you're trying to like insert yourself into like the thing as you're listening to it, which makes you sound like a crazy person, I know, but it's fun. It's fun because you feel more like you're interacting with it. And so anyhow, those three, awesome rapport, great episode that I heard in the last week or so. Loved it. It's good stuff.
Did you listen to content on your vacation, or did you take a vacation from all of that?
Yeah, I listened to no podcasts on vacation. I wanted just a little podcast detox, get away from it because you know it is. We listen to podcasts constantly. There comes times when you're like, man, I need to get the headphones out of my ears and go touch grass, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, just, I didn't listen to any podcasts during break, not even driving there or back. It was very intentional of me to do that. And it was really nice. And so then also when I came back, I was like, oh, I'm ready. Let's crank them up 1.5 speed. Let's go build a queue. Let's do this.
Bring it. Yeah. It makes you appreciate more when you've taken a little break. Yeah. I'm on a trial watching break a little bit right now. There was a trial I was interested. They're not streaming it, so I can only get like news reports about it, which is kind of but there was a 6-week trial that just ended a week ago, and some other trials that I was watching, but the 6-week was the one I think I've mentioned on this show that everybody should be watching. It was Massachusetts versus Karen Reed, and she was acquitted on all charges, rightfully so. She, you know, if you watch the trial, not that I'm saying rightfully so because I know anything about her, but just based on the evidence and the way that the trial was handled, that was definitely. And I got to say, not just myself, but other people online that I was watching with and friends in my personal life who watch, we were all super emotional, and not just for the verdict reading, but like for a week. It was a big deal to a lot of people, like around the world even. So, yeah. And it was on like the nightly news and that kind of thing, but I don't watch the nightly news, but it was national coverage as well. So that did end. That wasn't one of my superlatives though. I do have a segue. What was it though? Oh, you were saying you sort of are revisiting one with your best rapport. So I don't know if you remember this or if the guys in the chat remember this. A few weeks ago, or maybe longer, I mentioned Bussin' with the Boys, and they interviewed Matt LaFleur, and they had it in clips, but I didn't, and they were all fantastic, but I didn't have time to sit down and really digest the entire Matt LaFleur interview. And I went back last week and did that. And man, it was good. It was so good. And so I'm just going to list out some of the topics. And and they also have a mark. So if you go to the interview, you can click on the one you're interested in if you don't want to watch. It's like a 3-hour show. And so the interview doesn't even start for at least an hour in. So 2 hours actually. It starts at 2 minutes and 3 seconds. 2 hours and 3 minutes. So he talked about how the NFL stands for not for long in terms of coaching careers. And he kind of went into how that feels and his journey with that. And that was really fun. It was a very entertaining and fun interview because he knew the guys pretty well and had a history with them as players and coach. He talked about, they asked, and he spoke about the Washington football team coaching staff with Kyle and all of his buddies who are now head coaches, and how they got it wrong and they all got fired and how that all. But of course, they had to ask about that, the dream team, and there were some really unexpected and funny answers in there that he had in stories. He talked about how his approach to being a coach is to be very time efficient. So he wants the players to get in and do what they have to do. It's not his goal to like suck up their whole day unnecessarily. He wants them to get in, focus on what they have to do. They have the responsibility of taking that in their heads home with them or where they're going and do their things with that. But his goal isn't to have them there at the facility as long as humanly possible. There was a little bit of, and I might get into this later, but there was a little bit of a reference to when he was in LA working for the Rams, how at that in that town, they might want to keep the players in the facility as much as possible because it's LA, and they want to keep them out of trouble and keep them from, going out and that kind of thing. So he did talk a lot about how Green Bay is so great for football players to develop for that reason. So that it's not like they have a million things that they can do to get distracted or get in trouble with in Green Bay.
For sure.
They have enough, but
yeah.
And how the town is just built around that. So it's so cool. I think I want to live there. I just
do it, Don. They have like condos by the stadium. You can move in one of those.
I'm on the list, and I just recently got a listing, and I'm like, should I? I don't know. It's like,
do it.
I mean, I haven't seen winter since I was like in my early 20s.
That's true.
I'd probably die. Okay. He talked about how Coach LaFleur, Mike Vrabel, and Taylor, one of the two that was interviewed. Did I write their names down? Anyway, Taylor's one of the two guys that were interviewing him. Got into it once at halftime. They were frustrated about the way the game was going, and they talked about their yelling match. That was fun. All these little insights, and he was very open too. Talked about his time in Tennessee. I don't know what I meant by this, the game within the game, so we'll just skip that. They asked him, I guess a lot of coaches will like plan out their first 15 plays of the game. Well, he said now his is not 15, it's 25.
Really?
So, yeah, it's
That's
extended out.
actually.
Right. I thought that was a really interesting insight. He said at first it was. Talked about how he plays semi-pro ball and got paid like $500 for it. They talked about obviously his coaching journey. They talked about the incident with the fan. I believe that was in Detroit, right? Last year.
Yes.
With the fan jabbing it up and
acting inappropriately, acting a fool
to the players' heads, and he was out there going to protect them. He was like, they asked him about his pregame speeches. I think he's pretty understated. He's not like going to hype them up if they're not hyped up already. That's their problem. I don't know. That's not what he said, but he mentioned something. I don't know if you've ever heard this because I don't remember hearing it. He said his first time calling plays ever for the whole game for the Rams was at Lambeau Field playing against the Packers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was like, well, that's cool. It just came full circle. I think it was the year before he was hired, if I'm not mistaken. They talked about hard conversations that he's had with players and coaches, right? Having to let coaches go, having to let, say goodbye to players. And he talked about, he didn't name the player or anything, but I believe I'm sure it was at Lambeau where he had to let a player go, and they were out in some like building, some cinder block building somewhere. They were all alone, and the player went off on him, and he thought he was going to get killed. Yeah. Ooh. He said it was scary. He spoke about it like you could tell he was still kind of affected by it. They turned out, he got him calmed down, turned out okay, but that was interesting. Hopefully he'll never make that mistake.
Been.
I had a thought, but I'm not saying it to you on the show.
Oh, I mean, you're not trying to like slander the person, just and there's no backing to it. So who are you thinking, Don? Who do you think it was?
I wondered. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but the first person that popped into my head, because I was thinking that too, like, was Zadarius.
Could see that. He's got a little bit of psychopath in him for sure. I bet it was somebody you would never see. I bet it was somebody who was totally surprised about it as Josh Neiman. That's what I bet it was.
Oh, okay.
Like, didn't see that coming.
Right. Could be. Right. Somebody who was really surprised. And with Zadarius, I think it was sort of mutual, but I don't know. He was the only person I thought of.
Yeah, Joe mentioned in the chat that a lot of people have been talking about this, and some think Kylan Hill. Kylan Hill is actually like a really good answer for that, because I know he's had a history of some stuff, just to say. So I would believe that.
Know. Okay. Yeah. So it was such an interesting interview. let's see.
Real quick, I was
Will,
gonna say, and True North says Devondre Campbell would be his guess. I could see that too, because Devondre Campbell has like this sort of like quiet demeanor of a serial killer. So I could totally see that.
I like Devondre too. I didn't want him to go. He's doing well though. That's good. The other guy interviewing Will Compton. It was Will Compton and Taylor Lewin. I'm sorry, Will almost was a Packer. They talked about that. We really wanted to be a Packer, and that was a a good portion of good 5-minute conversation there. Talked about getting what it was like to get the Packers job. He was pretty surprised. Wasn't expecting it at all. He said that there are people on his staff, probably one person in particular, did not name names, who help keep him in line. So
Really?
it's like somebody to throw things off of, and they're honest with him. Like, no, you're not thinking right about this or whatever. And he's talked about how it's important to have people like that in your life.
It's Bisaccia. I bet it's Bisaccia.
I didn't get the impression that it was somebody. I got the impression it was somebody not
Like
at
lower
that
down?
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody maybe around him in the day-to-day. I'm not sure though.
See what Joe's saying here in the chat is exactly what I was thinking. He said that's probably Bisaccia, and that's why he keeps him around. I was thinking that could be part of it. Could be.
Possibly.
I don't know. We'll never know.
I don't want to talk about him. I'm going to give him credit for anything. Okay. And he did talk about how hard it was for him to fire Joe
Barry?
Yes. Joe Barry. You could just tell he was still really sad about it. Oh, there's somebody hugging you. Hi. He's still super sad about it.
Is he really? I mean, Joe Barry seemed like a nice guy, but obviously needed to go.
Well, they were close friends. He really liked him a lot. Very close friends. And probably still are. Oh, this was interesting. I don't know how this story came out, but the question was, what would you do anything for? Because some other coaches were asked that question, and they had some pretty colorful answers. Like about what they would give up to have a Super Bowl. But he talked about going to a Bucs game with his wife. It must have been one of I can't remember how long ago it was. I think it was the finals.
Okay.
And it was so crowded and busy, and I think they were invited whatever, but they couldn't even get in an Uber. Okay. So they're walking somewhere. I don't think they were walking to the hotel or out farthest where they could sit or get an Uber. And all of a sudden they heard gunshots.
Oh.
And he's like, run, with his wife. And I'm sorry, I forget her first name right now. It's not.
I can't think of it either.
And she's like, I can't run. She's in heels.
Yeah.
And he picked her up and carried her and ran with her until they ran into a police officer, and the police officer got them to their hotel and everything. But yeah. So I think he would do anything for his wife and his family. So that was kind of a good story. Yeah.
Awesome. He's all the bodyguard with her. Aw.
I know, it's so sweet. And then the last of it was about how he tore his pec benching. They asked him how much, and the whole story, and he went into great detail about that story. But it was 185 pounds. But yeah, he wasn't thinking about form and stuff like that. It was rushing to finish.
They'll do it. Yeah.
So anywho, I just thought it was a great interview. But and I'm just summarizing, and it's not even slightly interesting the way I'm summarizing it. Those are topics that you should. Yeah.
I'm pushing back at that, Dawn. No, this was interesting listening to you give sort of the the thumbnail sketch of it. Actually makes me want to listen to it more than if you hadn't described it. So
that's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping, because I think it was just an outstanding interview, and I don't know how many people really listen to it. So, and it's a great off-season thing to do.
Right.
Get you excited about your coach. How can you go wrong with that? So yeah. So what's your next superlative, Maddie?
Yeah, my next one is best advice / analogy. It's a twofer in the superlatives department for you, Dawn.
Okay.
So one of the best analogy smiths that we have in the Packers contentosphere is hands down, John Meerdink. He's got some great ones out there. The time he talked about, but before the Lions were good again, remember he talked about playing the Lions as like going to the DMV. That was a great one. Of course, just talking about his descriptions of Mark Murphy with his penny farthing bicycle and his tie that he got on sale from the pro shop and all that kind of stuff. But his analogies are always really on point. So in episode 899, he was talking about Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I think I have the wording slightly off, but it's like the focus of the month being on men's mental health, which is a really good thing because it's traditionally in the sort of like patriarchy we live in, it's hard for men to talk about their feelings. That's sort of like classical masculine sort of idea we have in the US. And so having a chance to focus on that and like, men, talk about your problems, get the help you need, stop like pretending like you're good. So first of all, lovely concept, right? And so John was talking about that, and he's never really talked. I don't think he's talked about before how he has actually like seen a therapist occasionally. And so like opening up is always like a really beautiful thing for a person to be, vulnerable and being honest about that stuff. So like that was great. So the best advice part was because he was talking about like you don't have to do this alone, like get the help you need. And that was amazing advice. But the way how he really drove it home was the analogy part. So what he did, he was talking about like if you are a quarterback, sometimes you're going to go see like a quarterback coach or somebody who's like a throwing specialist or like some kind of expert outside of the facilities who can help you with a specific part of your game. Like players do this all the time. And you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the people who rely on you. You're doing it for your team, like Jordan Love wants to get better so the whole team can be better. Well, he's talking about like it was important for him to get the kind of help he needed so he could be a better, husband and father, a better family member. And I was like, oh man, that's strong. You know what I mean? Because it's not just about you, it's about the people who you affect and who rely on you,
Yeah.
So like the analogy of seeing a specialist for like a sports thing is very, very parallel to like, seeing a mental health provider. And I thought that was really good. Really appreciated that.
For the team, not just for yourself, but for the team, and both, really.
Both. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, he is a wordsmith. He's a thoughtsmith too.
Yes.
Our John. Yes, he is. I love it, Maddie. That's fantastic. So it was best advice and analogy.
That's right.
John Meerdink.
So you have one more, right? A big one?
899. I do. I have one more. It's kind of lengthy, and I don't have a name for it, so I'm just going to jump right in. There's a lot of and it's funny that you sent me the article, and I'm like, yeah, that's on my list. Of course, because I'm interested in the business side of the NFL, which is why the off season to me isn't as bad. Like I always find things to interest me about the NFL in off season.
Yeah, there's a lot of business in the off season for sure. Yeah,
right. It goes on. So there was an article. Well, I don't know which came first, but there's I'm citing 3 sources, but I'm that there were many more sources for me. One of the sources is our guy Justice Mosqueda. Title of his article was Former Packer, NFLPA, which is the union, the players union, president withheld documentation of NFL owners colluding. Yes, that's an article. And I think where I started with this was honestly Mike Florio, because I think I've mentioned on this show before, when it comes to legal matters and the business matters, he's a trained lawyer, so I like hearing what he has to say, as well as conduct detrimental, but I don't think I saw anything from them on this yet. So Florio was invited on Pablo Torre Finds Out. Do you know Pablo Torre?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. His YouTube channel and website and all that is PTFO, Pablo Torre Finds Out. So he's Harvard educated journalist. He went to school with like what's his name from Facebook, whose name I won't mention on this show. So he's very good at what he does, and very reputable and honest reporting. And he doesn't just report on football. So he teamed up with Florio, and they evidently there was some reason for them to believe that there was something going on behind the scenes that the NFL didn't let out to the public. Oh, surprise, right? That's always
Right.
happening.
Seriously.
But it turns out that indeed there was, and there was this 61-page document that was the result of arbitration that went between the NFL Players Union and the NFL management. And they are, I believe, confined to arbitration, at least as a first course with their, contractually. They can't just sue each other. They have to start there. So they went into arbitration, and basically the union had a win. Okay. But they didn't tell anyone about it. Why? And so that's where the big thing is. Now, the thing they had the win about, and I'm just really trying to really break this down, and I'll get into a little bit more details, but the thing, because I know you'll have questions, the thing that they were winning about is that it was found via this arbitration that the NFL management and the owners were encouraged to collude, to constrain player pay salaries, to exclude to the extent possible any money that's guaranteed. So contracts, right? So contracts have guaranteed money sometimes. Sometimes they don't. I mean, that's what. That's why. Who were we just talking about where Sadie went to the Ravens? I just forgot his name.
Jair Alexander.
Jair. Oh my God. That's why Jair's gone. There wasn't a guarantee, money. But it's all, between the agent and the players and the team and the owners and the management, how much money each player gets. It's not like a standard thing.
Right.
And evidently, it was highly suggested that the owners get together and collude and make sure that they put an end to the extent possible, right, to guarantee money, especially for the top, like the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's
dirty. That's dirty.
Yeah. This all came about after Deshaun Watson got his big deal. And it wasn't because they saw that he wasn't going to play, because this was a couple of years ago before they knew that he was going to forget how to play football and throw a ball and all that jazz. They didn't know that. That wasn't the reason. Right. Just to be clear.
Yeah, because wasn't Deshaun Watson like 260 million guaranteed or something insane like that? Like,
yep.
So I can understand like the owners want to be like, well, let's try to keep them from happening, but collusion is collusion. I mean, that's disgusting.
Right. The way it's supposed to happen. And so the reason this is of concern is if you love your players and you love your team and you do love our players, you want them to get whatever they can get for what, it needs to be a fair playing field. Right. And each team is supposed to operate separately. There's 32 different teams. It's not supposed to be a monolith of like all the owners calling the shots. I mean, that's what the whole union is there for. And that's why they had this case go to arbitration. Which
you said the players union won, but they didn't tell anybody.
And then they hid it. Why would they hide it? And so that's why it's so convoluted. So then there's this other story going on in parallel where J.C. Tretter, who's a former Packer and then Browns, right? And I think he retired as a Packer. I think he went back to the Packers. Yeah. Probably, yeah. He became the president of the Players Union, or the NFLPA. And I just call it the union. And he ended up somehow or another, well, a couple of things. First of all, when Pablo Torres, he was the one who actually got, finally, after all this, I guess that Florio and Pablo had a wager going between them who would get this documentation. And there were a lot of reasons that people that they were asking for would want to give it to them. So it was really like a whole story within a story, just getting the document. Sure. Yeah. And by the way, I'm still looking for that document. It's not out in the public. So we're only going by what they're telling us.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think it might become public domain. I don't know, but so they. Oh, where was I? So your question was why? So why would the union not want? And that's the perplexing part about it. So a lot of it, really, what it comes down to is what it looks like, and we don't know. It's all speculation, but it really does look like Treader was the one, because he was at the time the president, and right now he's got a special position. It's not president. He's the
special consultant or something, like
strategist. He's the strategist. And then because he put in this placeholder, he created this secret vote to get like a placeholder guy in his position as president, who would then appoint him as strategist. But then he's going to become the executive director, which is now a new position that this guy is in. And he wants that. And he didn't want it out. All of the documentation includes some of his texts, which were derogatory about some of the players.
Oh, now, okay. So he's covering his own butt by not getting it out there, because he has some stuff he said that he maybe shouldn't have said. That's in there. Possibly.
That seems to be. But here's the problem with that. This is the players union, right? So there's 500, 600 players who are now going to be extremely annoyed with this. So he's there. I can't imagine he will ever get elected to that position in the future if he's not even asked to step down because of the pressure. So I think it backfired. If that's what it was, that probably backfired on him. But the other thing is, there's like this whole story about the guy. So evidently there was this special position that was created, but nobody knew about it. And it's supposed to be also an elected. The players are supposed to vote on this position. Well, he held this like secret process to vet, supposedly. And he put this guy in, and this guy came from, what's it called? Booz Allen. Booz Allen, it's a DC contractor for the government, who was he was their CFO. He had to step down because they got in all kinds of trouble. There was a whistleblower that worked for them who exposed that they were basically cheating taxpayers tax money about $100 million a year, like $500 million. Yeah. So then they had a fine, and he had to step down. This is the guy he's got no sports background, nothing. And he's now sitting in this position, holding it supposedly for Treader. He actually gave Treader a job, appointed him as strategist in the meantime.
Oh, yeah, because if he helps that guy get in to be the president, then that guy can turn around and give Treader like this special strategic consultant job, right?
And that's called quid pro quo.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of, there are a lot,
Ick.
I know, ick. It's all ick. And there's just a lot of little stories within the stories. But the only one that makes sense, and I still don't know if it really totally makes sense, is that, okay, so then it comes down to, if all this stuff is stacking up the way it looks to be, that it's Treader's personal interests were outweighing the interests of the union and the players. And that is bad.
That's bad.
That, if that's true, or even if that's what people think, if enough players think that, it's not good. It's not good for anyone, but it's particularly not good for Treader.
Yeah.
And how the union comes back from this, that's a lot of, I don't know, corruption, what we call it. And the collusion is just another word for conspiracy. This whole thing was really a conspiracy. It's a little illegal. And it was all hidden. And then the really sad part about it, on top of all of that, is they held this documentation back. People knew it was happening, insiders evidently, and talked about it, but they couldn't get their hands on the answers or the findings or this documentation. Well, now that they have, guess what? The statute of limitations that was built into the contract has expired. So there's not a recall. Right. It's really bad, in my opinion. I mean, it just does not look good. So, so the collusion conspiracy that they looked into, that the arbitrator did his findings and the 61-page report on, only involved Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, and who was the other player? Kyler Murray.
Mhm.
And then inside of that document, there are texts that were revealed between some owners, including Spanos from LA Chargers,
Mhm.
about, oh, good, Kyler only got this much guaranteed. That'll help me with Justin Herbert. Yeah, it's like in writing. It'll help us with our quarterback's contract. So poor
No.
Justin Herbert's reading this going,
Right.
and his agent, right? And so what recourse do they have? Probably none, because of the statute of limitations. But
Yeah.
going forward, they're going to want to take hold of this situation.
Yeah.
It's a really bad look for Goodell again, whose term is coming up pretty soon too, I think, because they have 10-year terms, I believe, for the commissioner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really ugly, but it just basically is limiting the players' ability to negotiate fairly for their contracts, right?
It messes up a sort of free market for them.
Right. And although the focus was on those 3 quarterbacks and quarterbacks in general, it does apply to other players too. And just the whole principle of the whole
principle. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not good. So it does say that the document really did say that the players, the arbitrators did find that the NFL encouraged teams to conspire regarding guaranteed contracts. And that would like reverse the growth trend in salaries. So, and there's a little more to that, but yeah, it's just really ugly. The way that Treader appears to have done it is absolutely scandalous. It's just, this is a scandal. And the fact that it's happening off season might help him, but it might hurt him too, because there aren't any games going on. So what else are we going to focus on? So his head on a stick, right? So, yeah. So, and why, it's just, to me, unless there's something else that we don't know, it's just really was hard for me to understand, why would the players union not publicize a win?
Yeah. Because that's a solid win for sure.
Everybody should be asking themselves that if they're a player, for sure. So,
Don, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
When we were in Savannah, we did a ghost tour. Follow me. I'm going somewhere on this. Okay. So like one of those like candlelit ghost tours. And one of the things that the guide said again and again is like, when you're walking around Savannah, like you are always walking on top of somebody's bones, because there have been so many like people that died, especially when they had the yellow fever raging through there for like a century. So like just there's people buried everywhere in Savannah. And that's the reason why, like, if you go to Savannah, like the roads are very uneven and kind of like weird dips and stuff like that, because you can't grade it out flat because you'd be disturbing graves, right? So point is, Savannah's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous city, but just underneath the surface, Don, it gets real weird real fast. And that's what the NFL is like. It's a beautiful product where we love the NFL, and the games and the players, and then just below the surface, it gets sketchy as heck real quickly. Yeah,
really, honestly, most big businesses, but for sure the NFL seems to be particularly
sketchy.
Immoral.
It's a big money business,
Yeah, it is. And it is not, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, well, they're making so much money, they have got to control it somehow. Well, if they control it, which they're not supposed to do, it's illegal. Where's the money going to go? It's not going to go back to the fans. It's just going to go back to the billionaires' pockets. So it's like,
exactly.
Come on. Yes. They're making a lot of money. Don't feel sorry for the billionaire owners.
Never.
So, except for the Packers.
Except for the Packers.
Billionaire owners.
That's why it's the best team, Don. That's right.
Yeah, and I do. And then it's like, I think maybe next time I have to like think this, because I didn't get to really absorb it enough where I could be like, okay, now as a Packers team, how they do things. Of course, players are still in the union. And by the way, this doesn't apply just to players' salaries. Evidently, it like goes all the way through like to coaches' salaries and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the confinement of their payouts altogether. But as a Packer fan, how to look at this, or even as a Packers owner, somebody,
exactly.
right?
Yes.
Because we're not doing that. Did we? Like, do we have our fingers in this? How? We don't have an owner. How about we have a manager? Was our manager at the time, Mark Murphy, aware of this? And, just makes you wonder. I doubt
not Mark Murphy.
I
not
doubt
our
it.
Ginger King. Nah.
So that's what I have for most icky.
Yeah. Dawn, that was good. You brought two really like thorough, fascinating ones, and I appreciated them. They're great.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Are you melting?
2 or 3? I am dying here, by the way.
I forgot. I'm like, okay, we can be quick, and it's like, oh, except for I have 2 superlatives that are like an hour each. I tried to.
But they're so good. They're so good.
All right.
Well, I have one more last one, and it's a quick one though.
Okay.
So my last superlative for the week then, Dawn, is best prognostication. So we all know, Dawn, Dusty Evely is amazing, right?
Oh,
and so he was looking back at how the Packers offense was structured and using that then in the next article that he wrote for Acme Packing Company called Looking Ahead to the Packers 2025 Offensive Approach. So using what he saw and the way things are developing to sort of talk about what he thinks are very likely going to be directions that the offense goes in the coming season. And it's the kind of thing where like, how could a person possibly predict this? But he lays it all out, of course.
Wow. Yeah.
And as always, Dusty's writing is very approachable. It's very accessible. You can learn a lot really fast, and it's not like, overly convoluted the way it's written. It's very clear. I love this about Dusty's writing. Yeah. So it was just like to look inside the mind of a person who is able to like, synthesize and comprehend this stuff like Dusty can. It's always so fascinating. So it's one of those things where I'm going to be watching to see how close Dusty's prognostication, is about this as the year unfolds, and what he's talking about, frankly, sounds really exciting too. So it's like, I hope he's right, because this could be, a really fun team. I know it's gonna be a fun team regardless, but like really fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to read that because, as I said in the beginning, about we're 4 weeks from training camp and 6 weeks from all that, 6 weeks from preseason, whatever. 10 weeks from football. It's time we can start getting into this kind of content without me getting, because some of it is I can't contain my excitement, and I don't want to be all excited, and then it's like, oh, it's 3 more months until we have a football game. So I think it's time now that we can start dipping our toes into that kind of content.
Indeed. Joe says here in the chat, this is what happens when you don't do weekly shows. You just start rambling. Joe, that's what we're like every week, buddy. That's not because of like our sporadic, off-season schedule, mister. I think you know that as well as anybody else.
I had an outline. I don't think I was rambling.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
All right, Maddie. Well, let's bring her home, get you out of that hot upstairs.
Yeah, it is boiling up here, let me tell you. So I just want to say, Dawn, man, I love you. This is so much fun talking to you tonight. I'm really looking forward to this fun episode, my friend.
Yeah, it's so good to see you.
So bringing it home, here we go. Friends, we'd love to have the chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber and a football fan. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, Maddie, that's right, because we love you. We're so glad to know you, even you, Joe.
Even you, Joe.
Rambling. Especially you, Joe. To be fans of you and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod, and we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.